actually connect everybody throughout all of BC and even all of Canada and the whole world. We're all connected by water. Because the mining, the pipelines, all these resource extraction industries are damaging the water sources, and this water here is one of the only ones you can actually still drink from on our territory. And this water flows into the bockades, flows into the Unist'ot'en, and that in turn flows into the ocean. So everybody is connected one way or another, and if you destroy this water source, it's going to all flow into the ocean as well. So everybody's connected there, and we all need water to live. My people need this territory to sustain ourselves. We need the moose, we need the fish, and this water is one of the actual spawning channels from the Gosnow flows into this, and that flows into the Buckley, so our salmon actually come from up here, so we need to protect that. That's our livelihood. It's one of our sustenance. Everybody, all my people eat.
So, through the interviews I had with people and through community meetings that I had, like I said, 100% of our people just said absolutely no to all the pipelines. They didn't want to see any natural gas in here. They didn't care if it was like supposed to be like a clean spill, if it ever happened, or a rupture. There was enough evidence from the previous natural gas pipeline that came through here to say that it was really dangerous. A lot of elders felt the same. One of the elders that we interviewed, Toghestiy, she lives in Terrace, one of the oldest people that we have in our nation. And when we explained everything to her, what the proposed pipeline project was, she sat there for a long time and she just thought about it. And she finally just couldn't take it anymore. She just stood up and paced back and forth in the kitchen. And she stopped and looked and said, we have to stop it all. We have to stop it all. If we let them all come in, they're going to come in and they're going to wreck everything. It's already bad enough what we're dealing with. We don't need to deal with anything more than that. We have to stop all of them. We don't have that choice. And she was very, very adamant about that. And that really kind of triggered something in me. You know, I think a year before that I was up in Fort Chippewa working as a teacher for the Northern Lakes Community College, teaching environmental monitoring. And that experience kind of galvanized my opposition to the tar sands. But the gas industry really got my attention. I realized that I had no choice at that point to remain unbiased. I had a responsibility as a hereditary chief of these territories to begin spending a lot more time up here and doing what I have to protect it. So Frida and I both decided that this is what we have to do, and we decided to move towards that. And our goal was to stop all the pipelines, and it still remains our goal, and we're going to make it happen.
So we've been having an annual camp. This year will be our 5th annual action camp, where we have people from all over the world coming to learn from each other on how to do bockades and demonstrations and how to do them safely, and just to share what works, what didn't.
We have a pit house also that we began constructing last year at the first spring construction camp, and it's going to be finished this year, and I'm moving into it. But the pit house was built directly in the path of the proposed Pacific Trails pipeline project. They originally wanted to put their pipeline right here, right where we're sitting here. This was the original right-of-way, but because of the cabin that was constructed here, they had to amend their application, and they moved it about 1.5 kilometers upstream from here. And the pit house is directly on the proposed right-of-way for the proposed Pacific Trails pipeline. And it's a pretty powerful message in and of itself, because it's us reclaiming our history. It's us moving back into a pit house that our ancestors lived in. And they haven't lived in one around here for like 170 to 200 years. So this is going to be the first time we're actually going to be living in a pit house again out on these territories. There's plenty of evidence around here of other pit houses that were here at one time. So that is something that's really, really powerful. It's a really powerful statement.
The idea came up, so we sent Satsy down to take a course and brought in some other people in her experience to take the courses and help design. Pick a spot that was going to get the most use and just pick a little corner of it, and eventually we'll hope to expand it and much more lands. And eventually the idea was to try and take a lot of our own natural root plants and medicines and berries and transplant them within that permaculture garden so that we can start sustaining our family.
And we realized we need more space. So the proposal came up with a couple of other supporters came out here this winter, Dave Aegis and Bob Aegis. They came out through the winter months and spent about a week up here with us, where they got a chance to do trapping, to skin animals, to see how life was up here during the winter, and they loved it. But they asked if they, with their background, if there was any green project that we had, and I said, well, we wouldn't mind getting a bunkhouse going. We have a spring construction camp coming up, and I wouldn't mind having some kind of a bunkhouse project started so we can actually get everybody in the bunkhouse. So they jumped on it right away. They're like, well, we'll organize that, I'll design it, we'll do the fundraising, we'll make it happen, and we have it happening now.
Even at the beginning, my own chiefs were uncomfortable with being forward the way we are doing things now. Because that's just the result of residential school, where our people were told to be silent and you're not allowed to speak up to authority, and to them, government is authority, and any officials that the government sends out are authority. So they've been taught via residential school that you're not allowed to speak up to authority. Even day schools, because a lot of our people, even though they didn't go to residential school, went to the Catholic school system, and it was day schools, and they weren't allowed to speak out there either. So a lot of our people were silenced by that, and influenced through the Catholic Church system as well, teaching you not to speak up to authorities. So a lot of people are too afraid to speak up because they think it's wrong, and yet it's so wrong to sit back and watch your land be destroyed so that your future grandchildren, great-grandchildren aren't going to reap the benefits that we have today if we don't take a stand and stop all the destruction.
Also, I think 7 years ago, we gained a voice in opposition to resource extraction, and the first opposition that we started to really fight against was proposed mining projects in our territories. And we actually had a blockade 6 years ago. Yeah, about 6 years ago, in one of the other Unist'ot'en territories, because a mining company was in there they're an exploration company that was in there to look at a ore deposit that was marketable for them. And the ore deposit was right beside one of the last places where we as Unist'ot'en people and Unist'ot'en people specifically can still harvest char. And